Hi, this is Andrew Smith, instructor at Ferris State University and runner of art by Smitty.com. This is going to be part one of my Dota 2 workshop tutorial series. In this video, we're going to go over the different tools and pieces of software that we'll be using, and I'll also go over how to get started with your Dota 2 workshop item. The first thing that you're going to want to do is go ahead and go to the Dota 2 workshop page. You can just Google this, and we're going to be referring to this throughout the tutorial series a lot. There's a lot of great useful information here, like an art guide, texture guides, shader mask guides, tech requirements, and some other stuff that we're not going to talk about. But you can do pretty much anything you want to mod Dota 2 here. So make sure that just all these web pages that we're going over, you bookmark or you start saving the resources. So for instance, the first thing I want you guys to do is download the art guide, texture guide, and shader guide and save those to your desktop. They're PDFs. And like I said, we're going to be following those pretty closely throughout the creation process. Before you get started, you're going to want to do some research. You're going to want to know, are we going to be you want to ask yourself, what kind of items do you want to create and what character do you want to create them for? And then your next step is to actually load up Steam, download Dota 2, and start familiarizing yourself with the game. As you can see here, I've played it for about 3 hours, and I'm a League of Legends guy, but I love the idea of user-created content. And I also love the art style of Dota 2. I think it's fantastic. So that's what you're going to want to do first. I'm going to be using Bloodseeker. For this, we're going to be creating a weapon for Bloodseeker. So I've gone ahead and I've already gathered reference art. I put this sheet together, and you should do the same thing. It's silly to pull up Google every time you need to find images or resources, composite them all together. So I've seen here of some other assets that other people have created for this character. I've gotten an idea of what different assets he has, like the body, the gloves, or they're called the arms, the weapons, etc. So with this character, I'm going to be giving him this cyberpunk Tron-esque weapon, and eventually possibly maybe go through and create all the items for the character, like a helmet and everything else. But we're going to start with a weapon for this tutorial. Now this tutorial is gauged for intermediate 3D artists, so you probably have some experience with your 3D application of choice. You've got some experience modeling, texturing, and rigging assets. We're not going to go into the basics. This will be best for any artists that have some experience and just haven't put something into Dota yet. So next up, I've actually gone through and recorded myself playing as Bloodseeker. So I just captured this with Camtasia, same software I'm recording with right now, and I just really wanted to get a feel for how big is the character compared to everybody else, what types of moves does the character have, how does the silhouette look when he's playing, and just get a feel for who this character is. The armor and the weaponry is just a mere reflection of who the character is, so I need to get familiar with him. So anyway, go ahead and check out the game, find out what character you want to use, and what kind of assets you want to create for the workshop. So here's the list of everything you're going to need to follow along with me in this workshop series. I'm going to be using Autodesk's 3ds Max 2012. I'm using 14 right now, but the reason behind that is a lot of the plugins and shaders won't work with anything higher than Autodesk's 3ds Max 2012. I'm using Photoshop CS6. You can use CS2. You can really use whatever version of Photoshop you want. You need Dota 2. So if you don't have that on Steam, if you don't have Steam, get Steam, then get Dota 2. You're also going to have to go into Steam and download the Alienware SDK, the software development kit, for the Half-Life model viewer. Okay, so the way you get that is by coming up here to, let's see here, we want to go to Games, View Games Library, And then from here, we won't be able to see it. So what I want to do is under Library, go down here to Tools. And this is where you can download the Alien Swarm SDK. So you're going to want to make sure that, you know, this is where you're getting that piece of software from. I'm going to be using ZBrush 4R6. If you're not super familiar with ZBrush, don't worry about it. We won't be using it exclusively. I'm going to be using Roadkill. I'm also going to be using the Dota 2 Hero shader from Ace Angel. And if you want to figure out, just Google Dota 2 Hero shader. And here's Ace Angel's submission on PolyCount. You can download the shader here. And then also, I want you to download his 3ds Max example file. That's what we're going to use to get started to preview our model inside of Max with his shader. And basically this shader is going to allow us to view the model as if it were in Dota 2, because you know, every render engine has its own unique abilities. So you're going to want to make sure that you grab this. We'll be using it exclusively. If you have the 3-point shader from 3-Point Studios, that'll work too, but that's $50 and this is free, and it works with all of the masks that the Dota 2 texture guides require. We're going to be using Alchemy to do our concepting of silhouettes. We're also going to be using, obviously, the Dota 2 workshop page, which we already showed you, and we might use Endu and Dedo. I'm not sure. I wanted to include that just in case we do use it. So how do I get the software? Autodesk, you can use your edu email address to download 3ds Max, and then here you can pick what version. So just go to the Download Center. Next up, you're going to want to grab the Wonderboy SMD import plugin for 3ds Max. Now this is one of the plugins that will only work up until Max 2012. Not my favorite version of Max, but they've made a lot of changes to things since then. I'm going to be using, obviously, Adobe's Photoshop. We're going to be using some ZBrush stuff. And then here's a link to the Quixel website where you can get Endu and Dedo. This software might not be crucial for a game like Dota 2, but it's an amazing piece of software, so make sure you check it out and get it if you have resources available. But I won't require you to have this to follow along. Okay, so once you've figured out what kind of character you want to create or create your items for, you need to download the model. So from here, I want to basically go up here to, let's go back to the original Dota 2 workshop page. Okay, so from here you can select which character you'd like to download, and so I've already done that, and I've come over here and I just saved it in the Bloodseeker folder. Here you have your materials for the character, here you have the models for the character, and if you go in kind of working within the repository, you have the FBX files, you have the Maya files, you have these SMD files. Now that's when this SMD importer from Wonderboy comes in handy, because if you download this and install it, all you have to do is place the plugin in the plugins folder in your startup file, and from there we can start importing the different parts to the mesh. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to open up my 3ds Max 2012, and specifically I'm going to, coming back here, I'm going to go to Resources, and I've downloaded this the Dota 2 Hero shader, and it came with that scene example file. Again, you can download that here under the Dota 2 Hero shader on PolyCount, and that's what we're going to start with. Alright, so now that I've got the file open, there should be 2 characters sitting in here, and I'm just going to delete them. And then, actually, I've already done that. From here, I need to go to File, Import. And I'm going to run over here to my desktop in the Dota 2 Workshop folder, go to Bloodseeker, Models, Heroes, Bloodseeker. I'm going to go to the SMD files, and I basically would like to import all of these. So we'll start out with the model, which is the base mesh for the character. I'll hit Open, and you want to make sure that none of these are checked, otherwise it will not import them. We'll hit OK. I like these standard settings here from the SMD file importer. Importing bones, and make sure that these meshes we're importing are actually skinned to the bones. It's really important. We want to insert the mesh and rebuild the normals, otherwise they'll come in with each face having its own normal or smoothing group. And then obviously materials as well. Hit OK. And it says done. It's imported everything. I'll hit OK. And so from here I can hit F4 to kind of see the wireframe. I like my wireframes to be black. Uncheck assign random colors. So we have this character sitting here, and it's got a default material applied to it, which is why it kind of looks gray like this. So I need to apply his materials, and this is when the Dota 2 hero shader comes in handy. I'm going to hit M, and in this first box here, I'm going to call this Blood Seeker. And what I need to do is select him and see what he's named. And actually what I'll do is go and see exactly what we name these guys. So this again is just the model. So I'll say Bloodseeker underscore model. Okay, and definitely check out how to load in these maps, but basically I need to come in here and tell this to load up my diffuse map, or they call it the color map, which is the same thing. We'll go to Bloodseeker, Materials, Models, Heroes, Bloodseeker, and I'm going to grab this Bloodseeker color map and hit Open. And now I'm going to apply this to my character here, and I'm going to say load or use diffuse map. So there we go. The normals on my model are looking a little goofy because it's telling it to load in this normal map, which we haven't specified yet. So again, let's go here and go grab his normals map, which is right here. Hit open. Okay, at this point I can turn off, I can hit F4 so I don't need to see my wireframe. Now some of this texture isn't quite finished and has overlapping UVs, so those are actually going to be fixed when we bring in the other elements to this character. But we still have the two mask maps to load in. And if you've kind of gone through and done some research a little bit already, these mask maps contain all different types of Fresnel and specular information in global self-illumination information that we're going to use when we start creating textures for the weapon. But anyway, let's load in mask 1. It has different texture maps assigned to each channel in that texture. And from here, we're going to grab and load up the mask 2. Alright, and so scrolling down even further, I do want the rim lighting. That's what's causing that effect, but I don't want it to be quite as intense. So I might come over here and start dropping that value down. And it should update real time. And I'm just going to drop it down to, looks like 4 is quite nice. Maybe even go to 3, which is pretty cool. That's that Fresnel shader kind of coming into play here. So they do that so you can, when you're playing the game, you can distinguish your character from the environment because you get this nice white highlight. Now, what else is cool is you can actually change the room light color here in the shader. And I'm looking over here. Let me pull it up really quickly. I've actually taken some screenshots of Bloodseeker in the game engine when you're doing when you're doing the character selection screen. So I kind of want to match the lighting here that I see from the game, so that way we get the correct representation here in Max. And it looks like his highlights are slightly colored, and they might even be a little bit red. Something like that will work out quite nicely, actually. So really cool, we're getting this real-time preview of the model in our viewport in Max, and this is essentially almost to the T what it's going to look like when we bring it into the engine. It's not going to look perfect, but it's not going to look exactly right, but it's going to look pretty darn good. So that's pretty cool. Now let's grab just a blank shader here, and note this is standard by default. So if you want to get your Dota 2 Hero shader working, we need to come over here and go to Materials and say Standard, and we need this to be a, well, let's see here, we need this to be a DirectX shader, so I'll hit OK. And say discard old material, it's fine. And from here I need to load the FX file. Now I haven't put it here. I should probably just put it here in my Max files, but I'm going to be working right out of this folder, so I'll go over here to Resources. And again, I downloaded this off Polycount from Ace Angel. And you're not going to see it, so you need to hit All Files. So I'll grab here Dota 2 Hero Shader. And then once I load it, I get all of these settings here again. And from here, I'm going to grab this naming convention, paste it over here, but delete the model part. And next, we're going to import, let's do the head next to get the mask in here working. So with that, let's go over here to File, Import. And I want to come over here and say head.smd, hit open, OK, all the same settings. And then we're just going to, we should probably start naming this stuff. Hit OK. And there we go. There's our head model. So let's apply this new head shader to it. And by default, it's going to be black until we start assigning materials. Let's go grab the diffuse map. And from here, I'm looking for the head, or I guess in this case, I'm not sure if they're probably calling it helmet. So we'll hit open. A little different in their naming conventions. That's okay. So anyway, if I zoom in here now, we can actually check and uncheck this. So you can see that it's applying the diffuse texture map to the head now, which is pretty cool. Let's go in here and add the normal map. Okay. Very nice. Now we're getting properly faced normals. Next up, we need to add our two masks. Go helmet mask 1 and helmet mask 2. There we go. So essentially that's what we should be seeing in the game, and this is starting to come together. From here, I'm going to scroll down and just kind of make sure that I am using the rim light, and it's set to that 3, which is good, and we're using the same specular color, so it's kind of saving my settings, which is nice. I don't have to go through each shader and change this. Now I need to just import and create materials for all the other items, and then I'm going to just kind of skip that because it's the same exact process of what I just did, and when I'm done, I'll pick up the video and you can kind of compare your progress with me. Okay, so from this point, I've got all of the different meshes imported. Some of them, like his girdle and his cape and the weapons, they have textures, but the unwraps on these models weren't matching up for whatever reason, and that's honestly not a big deal as long as I can see the shape and the silhouette that that model has, because I'm going to be replacing the weapons anyways. So not really a big deal for me, but everything else I can kind of get a good feel, and as I build the weapon and apply textures, we can see the updates. From here, you can, if I hit F4 and F3, you can kind of see the bone structure that came in with the SMD file. Now, if I were to come in here and select, say the neck bone, and I went to rotate it, you want to kind of double check and make sure that when you did import these guys, that they came in with their skin weights attached to them as well. This could be good if you just want to test some stuff out. And it looks like we're in pretty good shape here. Our model's moving the way we would expect it to move. So from here, basically I'm going to hit G to turn off the grid, and if I don't want to see the bones sticking out because he's got some other artifacts coming through, I can go over to the display tab and hide by category and say, I could say shapes or helpers or bone objects, and now we're only seeing the geometry in our scene, which is kind of nice. I've also, that light that was out here, I also kind of went out and hid that for me as well. Okay, so from here you can hit Control Alt Print or Alt Print Screen and take some screen grabs of your character, and we're going to use those to kind of paint our weapon concept on. But before we get into painting the weapon and concepting what it's going to look like with the character, we first have to concept the weapon itself with silhouettes. So that's what the second part in the video tutorial series is going to be, is saying, okay, we have this character. We know what style we're going for, this high-tech Tron-esque suit that we're going to add to him, these items. And I want to just kind of go from there. So we've kind of reviewed what pieces of software that you need to get to this point, working with the models, looking how they look in the engine inside of Max. We've gone over how to import your models from Dota 2's website and get them working in Max with textures applied. And like I said, the next part we'll be going over concepting designs for the weapons.